Welcome to the Tine Talk Podcast, sponsored by Rack Fuel, premium deer nutrition. Fuel your herd.
All right, folks, here we are. It's episode 11 today. It seems crazy we've already done 10 podcasts, but Here we are. February 1st, up here in the Midwest, we've been blessed with some awesome weather. It feels like you mentioned earlier, trying to go hunt turkeys real soon, but we got shed season ahead of us first. It's still a little early from what I've seen. I don't have a ton of cameras out there. You guys probably could touch on that a little bit, but are you guys seeing a lot of shed bucks, or are you pretty much?
I've only seen one. Well, we know of one nice one, obviously, and then a couple spikes or something, real small bucks that you could notice that looked like a small deer, small hole in their head.
Small pedicle, yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm going to probably check my cameras again on Saturday, just get a little feel of how many I've shed.
How many cameras are you still rolling?
All of them.
You just have your Tacticams?
Yeah.
From October, all of them?
Yeah.
Really?
I got all of them still out, but no subscriptions for Tacticam, so I'm not paying for any service.
Oh, okay.
I just got to use the card and check them that way. Do it the old-fashioned way. It's exciting. Going back and looking at all the cards.
I don't want to know what your battery bill is.
No, you don't want to know. The last freaking trip that I made was like $100 in batteries, and that only fills up so many.
That's it. That ain't much. It depends what you're running, but
yeah,
when we're running the Cuddy Links there, and they're burning up 16 a piece. This year we did a little bit something different. We kind of used we used a bigger battery and ran a cord down, which proved to help, but still had a few. It wasn't perfect. We had some cord issues, but
me and Cole still have 3, 4 of our Tacticams out, and the subscription going because they're on standing beans and corn. And there's with the warm weather, there's hasn't been any.
I know, that's the worst part. You leave all this food from late season, and then warm weather comes around. It's well, they're not going to be eating here at all.
And it sucks because last year our plots were they didn't turn out good at all with our beans and corn, and it was pretty cold and snowy last winter, wasn't it? And not super snowy, but
it was
cold.
We didn't have any deer in our plots last year, and now it's super warm, and we have plenty of food, and they're not hitting it because of that. But
good problem to have.
I guess,
that's for sure. I'm hoping that this it's going to bring some giants this fall.
We should, once we get Emmitt on here, we should ask him how he kind of sees it. If it's been a warmer year, if he has snow for longer times, if the sheds are more spread out. I've heard that quite a bit in Iowa. Different food sources like that. I wonder if they're still hammering acorns a lot too.
Generally, it's harder to find them if you can't, if they're not hitting one food source and
more spread out.
For one, the snow doesn't show the sign and they're not all bunched up in one spot. So should we give Emmitt a call?
Yeah.
Iowa usually has quite a bit less snow.
Yeah.
In a regular year, don't they?
Yeah, for sure.
So would be interesting to see what he says, how they're normally acting in the winter too.
Especially southern Iowa, yeah.
Do a real quick introduction for Emmitt. I went to school with him at Grandview. Didn't talk to him a ton there until I think he had left, and then started following his page. I'm like, damn, you were that into deer hunting, and I didn't get the chance to meet you when we were there. But so that was unfortunate. But he's got an awesome channel.
Yeah,
and
Extreme Element Outdoors
finds a ton of sheds every year. I mean, I believe he's found well over 100 the last 3 years for sure since I've been just watching his videos. But
just last year, didn't he find 150? Yeah. That's ridiculous.
and working a 5-day a week job. So
yeah,
it's normally that's the videos that I watched when I got the itch and we still got a foot of snow here in Wisconsin. I'll just go over to his page and watch him find sheds while I
I think he puts them on every week usually or every other week maybe. I watched them all last year. He's got good videos. So.
All right, let's give him a call.
Hey, what's up, Dusty?
Emmitt, how you been, man?
Good. How you doing?
Good. We're just dreaming about finding some sheds here. It's a little early for us to get out walking yet. I mean, we probably could and should in a few areas, but I think
Yeah.
up here, I don't know what it's like down in Iowa. Up here, I'm guessing 70 roughly % of the deer are still holding.
Oh, yeah.
But where are you headed right now? You said you're going to some outdoor show out east?
Yeah. Yeah, man. So we're heading out to the Great American Outdoor Show. Have you heard of that?
I honestly have not.
I have, yeah.
You have?
Yep.
Mitch? Nice.
Supposedly it's like the biggest outdoor show that there is. Like, it seems, from everything I've seen online, it's like huge.
Really?
I've only ever been to like the Iowa Deer Classics. I mean,
yeah.
Okay. I was
I'm sure
just going to
that's
ask you
like
if it was similar to a deer classic. I've been to the Iowa one. Wisconsin has a nice one in Madison. Was one at went to one in
Wisconsin
the
got one too.
cities. Yeah, but so it's pretty much just like a deer classic.
I don't think I think it's a lot bigger. Like, they've got like multiple halls and like it's like a 9-day thing. It's from one weekend to the next,
Wow.
and it's like strategically placed. I think they've had this show for a long time, and they have it like right where like two major interstates meet.
Yep.
And
Real convenient.
basically what I've heard is like it's packed all week, which is just crazy to me. You know, like on a Wednesday at like 11 o'clock. Why would anybody be at an outdoor show? But hey,
Yeah, right. Pennsylvania is one of those states nobody talks about when you're thinking big bucks too, but just from following a few, I don't know, channels and podcasts throughout there, it is pretty big. Hunting heritage is pretty big out there.
yeah.
They got a lot of hunters over there.
And
I think Pennsylvania's got the most hunters per square mile out of any state.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yep.
there, Wisconsin's probably a close second. I bet you Buffalo County, Wisconsin, where we're at, is probably maybe the first as the county goes. But that's a whole different topic for another day. But yeah, that makes it tough out there, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're a bait state or not, like Ohio is, but
Emma, you want to kind of introduce yourself and your YouTube channel and everything, and tell us what you're all about?
Heck yeah, man. So my name's Emmitt, Enyeart. I have a YouTube channel. It's called Extreme Element Outdoors. It's a channel that I've used to document my shed hunting, deer hunting, turkey hunting, basically all outdoor activities.
Yep.
And it's just something I do because I love it. Like, I want the ability to go back one day. Like, the reason I just started filming is like I just want to go back one day and be able to say, like, hey, grandson or whatever, like, here's what we did when we were younger. Having that video and having that story, there's just so many priceless memories that you make. And if some of them, you lose touch with some of the fine details. And by having it on video, that's kind of what got me started. So anyways, it's just something I do for fun. Coming into this time of year, shed hunting is something that I really enjoy. And it seems to be something that a lot of people on YouTube like. So hoping to get back out there soon. But like we just talked about, heading out to the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg for something completely different. This year I'm actually launching a new business called Cat Track. And it's a business that's predicated on producing like elite mobile hunting gear. And the first product that we're releasing is a really lightweight climbing stick.
Okay,
so
nice.
It's really exciting to get that out there, but it's also, it's like just inconvenient timing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're obviously, it's maybe a little early from where you're mostly finding them, but with this year's weather, I know you had snow early on, but right now you're probably, if you weren't out there, would you be out shed hunting this weekend?
It's a good question. I would say yes. There's a couple farms that, just because of the sheer amount of people that also shed hunted, I've got really nothing to lose by going super early.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost, it's to the point that it's almost more pressured than these farms I'm talking about. Like, they're more pressured, I would say, for shed hunting wise than what you would see with like public. Just because they're just, the landowner basically, gave permission to whoever comes up and knocks on their door, but they've got great habitat and whatnot. So it's like, I want to be the first one there.
Yeah.
In case there is something that drops early.
For sure.
Yep.
And yeah, there is a handful of those. I've already been following Don Kiske. He found a really nice young buck just recently. I don't know if you saw that, but it was like a I don't know,
21 pointer, I think.
21 pointer, and it was he estimates a 2.5-year-old.
No way.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that buck. But that buck almost reminded me of a buck. I was just watching a video of yours the other day. You found one last year that had a whole bunch of points. I don't know, was it a 7-8 point side? I'm curious, did that buck, what did he look like this year? Did he get killed? Is he still alive?
So it's really funny you bring that buck up. So that buck, unbelievable potential, man. So he had 16 points, had 9 points in that shed that I found last year. And we really thought that deer was too. I mean, if you look in that video, you can just see how like skinny that, like there's like no gut on that deer. He's got a pencil neck. I mean, it was like this deer has to be too, but you just never thought it with his antlers.
Yep.
Anyways, we had EHD really, really bad this summer. And so, like, in that area, like on that farm specifically, I think that based on the bucks that I had like pictures of early in the summer, I think that anywhere between 50 to 75% of the herd was killed off in EHD.
Damn.
And so, if you look back on that year where I found that shed, I had pictures of that deer early in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the summer of 2022. Yep. So I didn't get any pictures of him in the summer of 2023. And I'm like, well, he's just like, all these other bucks that have died from EHD. He probably just died from EHD. I never even got pictures of him this year, and I didn't get any pictures of him.
Wow.
All of a sudden, November comes along, and our neighbor, which like on that farm, the neighbor is actually like is really into quality deer management, so it's like a great neighbor to have. And
for sure.
He actually reached out and he's like, "Hey, that buck showed back up." I'm like, "No way!" Like I'm on cloud nine because this season like was just like a nightmare as far as how many deer died from EHD. That to hear something like that where you're like, I didn't even have that buck in my mind. I just figured he was dead.
Dang.
So all of a sudden, to be like, this deer's back. It was like, holy cow.
Do you get to?
Well, I was running.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you get to hunt that property, or you just shed hunt it, or?
No, I can hunt that farm, but actually, like I wasn't running any cell cams on that farm, and I actually hadn't checked the cameras in a while because like there just wasn't that many bucks that I wanted to hunt there. So when he called and told me, I went and checked the cameras, and I saw that, okay, he showed up on my cameras too. So we agreed we'd pass on him, and this year was awesome. So,
wow.
He was 2 last year, came in at 3 this year. I think he actually was less in points. He might have been 16 points again, but he was more of like a mainframe 10 this year with just the kickers off his Tine.
Yep. But
he, he was right where I thought he would be at. He was at like 150 when I thought he was 2. So it's like, maybe he'll be. And the reason he scored so high, like 150, just because he had so many points, right?
All the
like
points, yeah.
His frame was probably like a 120 to 125 inch frame, but he's got all these points that just totals to something.
Yeah, that makes
silly. But anyways,
awesome.
His frame this year was like. Now his frame was impressive. Like he was outside the ears. And anyways, it's like this year's 180 for sure, and he's 3. Like pretty sure he's 3. He could have been 4, but I'm really confident he's 3.
That's wild.
So it's like, yes, awesome. Okay, he's back. He'll probably stick around there in the late season because that's what he did last year. We got some good food sources there. There's not a lot of. The food sources are going to be there for a while because there's just not the herd there is like there was last year. So these deer, it's going to take them a while to consume all the food. And he's like, oh, this is looking really good. He's almost through the run. 2 weeks later, shotgun season starts. And the neighbor's like, I'm just worried that he'll go over to this one farmer and get shot. And to a T, that's exactly what happened on the first day of shotgun season.
No
deer
way.
got shot. Yeah, deer got shot. And like we had, like both that neighbor and I were just doing observation sits. Like we were both like sitting there texting back and forth, like saying like, hey, I'm hearing a lot of shots over here, or hearing a lot of shots over there, just trying to see what we would see. And we heard all the shooting over there, and he got a text like seriously like an hour after it was shot, and it was like
Oh, that sucks.
Oh.
I almost interrupted you and said, "Are you coming back to find that thing sheds soon?" But
God.
that's a tough ending to that one. Yeah, that's tough to swallow. But who hasn't been there in the deer hunting world? You know,
Right. And there's go ahead.
You heard that shot and you probably just knew instantly. Your heart sank. You're like, oh man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, gosh.
You're like, maybe you doe, maybe you missed, maybe. I had that same thing going through my head this year. I had a big one. I was hunting, but then every opening day, every shot you hear is just, you know, at the back of your head, you're like, I hope it wasn't him. I hope it wasn't him. Any other deer.
Yeah.
And I had an unfortunate ending to my story too. He ended up getting killed. It was an older deer, but he had just showed up and he was pushing 182, I bet. But yeah, so tough luck there. But hopefully you got some bucks left to hunt. I'm sure you got a couple. But we talked about EHD a little bit earlier this year in a different podcast with a buddy of mine who has multiple leases down in the south central part of Iowa, and he was pretty disgusted with what it did to a few of his farms as well. Are you more south central, southeast?
Southeastern.
You're more southeastern, and it still got it pretty tough. And he mentioned it being kind of pockety, which I've heard in the past. You know, certain farms get it bad, certain farms seem to be untouched. So did you see any of that as well, or?
Absolutely. That's a great way of, that's exactly how I describe it as well. It hits the pockets. I mean, like, LeBron County got hit, right? But, like, I could go 10 miles from one farm and say that, guess that, maybe 25 to 50% of the herd got killed off by EHD. But, like, on one of the farms, I'm not kidding when I say 75% for sure. It has to be close to 75% got wiped out. Like, that was an extreme scenario, but I don't think that it was like the whole county was 75%, right? But it's just, I think it's just the right mixture of drought, a little bit of rain, enough to like get that stagnant water and get the midges breeding, and just in some pockets, where you look at how rainfall hits, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And how 5 miles down the road somebody can get an inch of rain, and then you go back to where you're at and you could have a 10. I think that kind of, in a way that we truly don't understand yet, that influences like those pockets.
Yep. A buddy of mine who was on that podcast, he had said, and he's been down there quite a while. He remembers like 2012. You guys had a tough year that year too, and he said it was basically the dry year, and then when you do get a really heavy rain and those creek bottom, those creeks kind of flood and that water gets into some grassy areas, and then just sits there and dries up, and then that just is a perfect breeding ground is what he was thinking, and he's seen that. He thought those were the worst years, but hard to figure out exactly.
Yeah, because you're right. It's like you have to have drought, and this is what it seems like, right? The limited data that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like you have to have drought, and then a hard rain, and then drought again. Like, if it was a complete drought, I actually think it wouldn't be that bad because there wouldn't be any water for the.
Mm-hmm.
True. Yeah,
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how like up here in Wisconsin we're like the Wisconsin DNR talks about not EHD but CWD nonstop, and to my knowledge there's not been a confirmed death of CWD yet in the state, but then here we are, border state, and you have in some spots over half the herd getting killed off by EHD, and that's not even brought up in a lot of news articles and things that you're seeing around here, which is insane to me. But
I can't even imagine that percentage of your herd going in a year. That's freaking nuts.
Yeah, especially when I have a herd. Yeah,
you guys are lucky with your out of state law or out of state laws and regulations. That's obviously a huge advantage for you. But dealing with that's an equalizer right there. I mean, the way I look at it, that's tough.
Yeah, no doubt. I think a lot of people had a humbling experience. I mean, not to anybody's fault, nobody can control it, right? But I think a lot of out-of-state hunters came in with outfitters, and outfitters are getting a lot of money back this year because, all the outfitters that I know were talking about how, their clients are so displeased, but it's like nothing they can control, right? Like it's just a bad draw.
Yep.
And
Exactly. It's funny you say that. Myself and Mitch here both should draw next year, not guaranteed, but we're going in with 5 points. So, obviously anticipating drawing. Jake last year drew with 5 points, had some luck on a public land hunt. But it certainly is in the back of your head. Do you want to spend the money with an outfitter when that stuff's happening? Do you want to go public? It's a constant disc.
Be more mobile, I guess. Yeah. Do you shed?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you're
all you. We're listening to you.
Okay. I was just gonna say, I know like the northeast portion of the state. Like there's like a couple counties. I mean, it's not like as broad as like the south side of the state. It's like Alameda County. I think it's Winneshiek or something.
Yep.
Like,
Sumner
those
County.
are some really good counties
Up in there.
And I don't think that I'm going to guess that they didn't get hit with the EHD as bad as like we did in Southern here. So I mean, if you have those 5 points next year and you're like, I absolutely want to go to Iowa, I would recommend looking at like what counties, try to figure out what counties didn't get hit that hard. But if you're like, I want to go to Southeast Iowa, I want to go to South Central Iowa, and you know that the county's been hit really hard, I honestly, like, I've even told a couple guys in Pennsylvania that are coming up on 5 points as well. I'm like, I honestly will wait another year, like at least another year.
Yeah.
If you want to get the full Iowa experience and you're trying to come to one of these counties that got hit really hard, hold off, because if you came 2 years ago, your experience would have been 10 times different than what it would have been last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's tough. It's so hard to predict. And then my thing is, the South Central Iowa takes 5 points. It's a little easier to get it in Northeast Iowa. I think 3 will get you a bow tag most years. And it's like I got these points now. I got to go. South Central is what is in my head.
Yeah,
but
you wait that long.
probably not the best. Best idea to be stubborn and force yourself down there when this is going on. But
yeah,
hard to know.
Hard to know with EHD when it's going to come back and have another bad year like that too.
Exactly.
You can't just grow a 4-year-old out of nowhere.
And
and that's the thing. It takes a couple of years to bring it back, right?
Yeah, for sure. And not only that, you're thinking about this hunt, but then you're thinking about your next Iowa hunt too. As sooner you get this tag, burnt up, the sooner you can start sending in points again. So it's tough. We should just move down there, but family and things like that, you gotta. It's not that easy. So I wish we had what you guys had as far as certain resources, but we also can't complain. We're in a good part of Wisconsin. So, but circling back to shed hunting, that's kind of obviously that this time of year. That from following your page, that's what I've enjoyed the most is some of your shed videos. What's your goal this year as far as sheds? Are you sticking with that 150 or are you bumping it to 200?
So I would if you'd asked me like before the summer, like I would have been like 200. Like we're gonna do it. We're gonna do 200 this year for sure.
Yep.
And then with EHD.
Oh yeah, that's a game changer.
It's going to be, like I said, a lot of the primary areas I hunt, I mean, they're averaging and like some of the best farms I hunt, like I said, the one is like 75% herd kill off. I mean, I'm going to say my goal this year is 100. And like, if I hit 100, that would be like me hitting 200 on a normal year. Mm-hmm. Like that's how hard it's going to be to get to 100.
Damn. Yeah. Just think about all the bucks that, each have 2 sheds I'm sure that eats into that number pretty good.
How many deadheads have you found this year?
So I've already found like 20 deer dead just from checking cards in the summer. I mean, I went looking for one specifically early in the summer because I had a really good feeling he was dead and I found him dead. Mm-hmm. But after that, I would only go look at him if I smelled him when I was checking my cameras. And like every time I go check my camera, there would be like, a dead deer you can smell. So I found like 20 in the summer. And then
crazy.
Since then, I've probably found 4 that I really haven't been out looking. So what'll be interesting is like how many I actually find dead. And when I say 20, that's not like deadheads. That's just does and bucks. I mean, I think maybe 6 or 7 were bucks there, maybe 8. But there's a lot that I just from like trail cam history on some of these deer. There's a lot that I know are dead. It's just a matter of whether or not they're dead on like the farm that I can shed hunt, and somebody else hasn't already found them.
Yep.
Hey, watching all of your, this is Jake here, watching all your shed videos last year. I think they're really good videos, pretty impressed with them. I really wanted to ask you, like, how many miles you put on in a shed season? Like, you have to put on a crazy amount of miles looking, don't you?
That's a great question. Honestly, I've tried to track that before, and I just became pretty, like, I tried to track on my Apple Watch 2 years ago, and I didn't take it out a couple times, so I ended up like losing track, and I didn't walk as many places as I do now.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if I had to guess, I'd say at least 400 miles.
Yeah.
Holy.
I was going to guess like 300 because I kept track of mine last year, and I walked, I think, 55 miles, and I found like 25 to 30 or so or something like that. So I was guessing maybe like every half mile or whatever, something like that.
That's crazy.
Well, it's weird because I can go on one farm. Like if I go on a farm, like for example, my dad owns a farm, and on that farm, that's like where I can do like food plots, and we can like I'll actually go out and put out corn and be really serious and try to keep those deer there during the winter. Like if on that farm, I mean, I'm gonna average less than half a mile per shed on most good years.
Yeah.
But then there's other farms where like it's 200 acres of cattle pasture, and I'm just hoping that it's a deer comes and hunkers down in the cedar thicket that's off of a neighbor's farm. And on those farms, it's like it could be the average could be like 10 miles per shed. I mean that might be extreme, but it's kind of dependent. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I wish Wisconsin we can't put out even a little pile of corn, let alone have a feeder here, just because the DNR is afraid of the deer getting CWD.
Oh, the CWD.
But obviously, I think anybody who knows hunting would probably figure that EHD is a bigger issue. But yeah, that would help, but it makes it a little tougher. But we walked. What did we walk? 10 miles a day. We figured when we went down on our trip last couple of years. We go on a trip every year down to Iowa. Hunt mostly public for about 2.5 days, and I think we average roughly
20
probably
to 25 miles, I think.
10 per day though is about as good as you.
Yeah, yeah,
that was a good day, and by day 3, my legs are not feeling the best. It's a long winter, and that's the first thing you do.
Yeah,
it's like okay, I feel it.
Yeah,
but you probably haven't felt that in a while as much as you get out there.
Oh no, I feel it every year. The first couple times, for sure. It's like, the first couple times, it's like I get all stiff legged in bed, and But it's also like kind of weird because like if you go out like at the end of March, or maybe up there, it's more of like beginning of April. When everything's melted and it's nice, and you're wearing t-shirts. 10 miles on a day like that does not feel like 10 miles on a day. When it's like ice, like an ice layer on bottom with half an inch of snow that you're constantly walking in mush or slipping on ice, and your leg muscles are constantly contracting in different ways that you don't normally use them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great
point. That's a lot more strain.
Yeah,
that's a great point. And
that just sounds like hell.
Slippery.
Or if you're in the big hills versus some flatland, that's a big difference too.
Yeah,
exactly.
We've got a lot of hills where we're at here in the western part of Wisconsin, so that makes it challenging, especially on the muddy and icy
northern
side
Iowa,
hills.
where we were in that real steep stuff.
Yeah,
we went to,
you said you're southeastern Iowa. Is it getting any real steep stuff over there? I don't know how close you are to the river.
Yeah, you're pretty close to the river, or are you more closer to Zone 5?
You're not too far from Mississippi. You're probably about. I mean, I do some shed hunting that's pretty close to Mississippi because I got permission on places all over in southeast Iowa that I used to live in Burlington, which wasn't far from Mississippi River, like seriously on Mississippi River. I also I went to high school in DeWitt, Iowa, which is it's not really southeast Iowa, it's eastern Iowa. kind of in the middle of the state, but on the eastern side. And that's like, I got a couple of farms that I shed hunt up around there that is close to the river. So yeah, I'm pretty familiar with those areas and that around the river. Where I do a lot more than now is probably about like, I don't know, anywhere between 40 to 80 miles west of the river. But I definitely hit the areas over there every year.
Yeah. Dang.
Nice. How many different, I mean, I don't expect you to name the number, but you got a lot more farms you can shed hunt than you can deer hunt, I'd imagine, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Is it getting tougher for you too to find farms to shed hunt? I know up here it's getting tougher. People are getting more serious about it each year, and everybody wants to find that needle in the haystack. So,
absolutely, it's becoming a lot tougher. I mean, so to find like that awesome, like perfect piece of permission ground for deer hunting is like, something that doesn't have the landowner's not going to let every person who comes and knocks on their door, hunt. Yeah. And also it has like actually good ability to hold deer habitat. And it's not something you're just hoping that like a deer's just cruising through during the rut. That's like, I don't know, the probability of hitting that is like slim to none. And it'll happen if you do it like knock on 300 doors, but you got to get lucky, right? So for the shed hunting, to get back to shed hunting, it's becoming a lot closer to that. Like I've gotten permission on a couple gold mines that are like awesome, but it's just like anything else, the interest is picking up, people have grandkids, they're gaining interest, which is good as long as somebody's doing it, right? Yeah. It's becoming, I mean, I can't quantify it, but it's definitely becoming tougher. People are getting more interested in shed hunting. And like, I get permission in more places to shed hunt than I do deer hunting, but it's becoming to the point that the places I'm getting permission to shed hunt aren't like you're constantly competing with everybody else.
Yeah, you might be better. I mean, not better off, but hunting, like you mentioned earlier, hunting public might be as good, if not better. I mean, less pressured than some of those areas.
Yeah, there are definitely. I mean, yeah.
Do you shed hunt much for public? I know I'd asked you this, I don't know, a couple of years ago when I was sharing with you how some of our trips went. But I mean, do you still put some miles on any public down in your neck of the woods, or are you pretty much strictly private?
I do a little bit every year. A little bit, not very much, not like I used to, and I never did it a lot. But I would say, if anything, like maybe 2 days a year, I'll do public. And there's a lot of great opportunities on public. There's a lot of there's food on public in some of these sections, where like the DNR will actually have like food for them. So it's just, it's like you're just trying to play a game of who's first and who's first after the deer actually drops down.
Yeah.
Yep. I hear you. Mm-hmm. It's disheartening when you get to a good spot and you're a ways off the parking spot or parking area, and you're like, this spot's awesome, and then pretty soon, usually never fails. You end up walking up on somebody's boot tracks, which is a killer. But the short story, the biggest shed I've ever found, a buddy of mine walked 10 feet from it. I'm sure you've probably got a few of those stories after shed hunting in the woods.
Oh, yeah.
So many times, which I keep trying to remind myself of that every time I walk up on a pair of boot tracks on public, but it is tough, to keep that mentality.
It is totally, I mean, it is, no matter how, I definitely have a couple of stories where it's like, deer, you're like, oh, I missed that last year, or somebody was walking right here next to me and I see it and they didn't, and they walk closer to it. And, but yeah, it's really hard to break that, that, what's the right word for it? The heart dropping feeling when you walk up on tracks.
It's always in the best spots too. You're just like, okay, here we are. It's anywhere you're in a little cedar thicket, 3/4 a mile and a half back. Nobody's been here. This is where we're at. And then sure enough, the next little trail you walk. Another quick question, not to change topics immediately here, but we were wondering earlier, what's the most sheds you found in one single day? You know the number off the top of your head?
I'm trying to. I don't know if I know the number individually.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know a couple years ago, my dad and I hit the farm that he owns. Like that was a really awesome year, just because there was this weird circumstances where the farmer left the beans in late, and we found like 33 in one day.
Okay.
Between the two of us.
Yep.
But there's been a couple of days where like I want to say I've been over 17, but I don't know that actual individual how many I found in one day number off the top of my head.
Yeah. I'm at 12, and that was funny thing is I think I was 14 years old when I hit that number. My mom had dropped me off at this farm, a friend of hers that we still shed hunt usually about one day a year. We would bring a group, but I got into some good areas, and recently we went. We do have luck, but nothing like that. But I don't know. Mitch,
those days are just awesome.
They are, yeah, and it's like, man, now it's getting to be 14 years ago. But
Yeah.
Who knows? I'm sure I'll hopefully have another day like that. You got to keep putting in time. It's tougher nowadays. Work, kids, family, everybody's dealing with it. But Mitch, where are you at? I know you've had a couple of good ones.
I don't even know if I've hit double digits in one day before, but I've had a lot of them around like 8 or 9 or something like that.
Yeah, so
Normally the one I don't gotta worry about trespassers on mine. I gotta worry about my dad getting there before me and sending me pictures of all the ones that he finds.
Yeah.
I'm like, Dad, just wait for me a little bit. Like I can literally go this weekend.
Oh, God. That is such a true thing.
Do you have any like tips or tricks or whatever for anybody who's not really or just getting into shed hunting?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I don't feel like I talk about enough is like get yourself a pair of binoculars. That's something that like it's not like the number one tip, but like that's something that I feel like I kind of overlook. Sometimes I should bring like attention to more in my videos. Like, binoculars are a great tool for shed hunting. Another thing I would do is I would just go in there open minded, like saying that your goal is to find one. Like don't watch the video where I go out and find 33 sheds in one day and then expect that, because like you're just going to set yourself up for failure. That's like a 1 in 1,000 opportunity, right? So like, and just go in with an open mind. Keep your eyes like on the ground. Don't look out too far ahead. If it's your first time going, I would say like try to keep it, your eyes closed within like 20 feet. And then what I would do is if you know, I'm going to assume it's a deer hunter that's going out for their first time shed hunting. Look for a food source that they're hitting in the winter. If you're not a deer hunter, you might have to do a little bit of scouting and figure out where those deer are at. Food is huge. I used to think that bedding and like great bedding and food were equal, but I'm to the point now where like I think food is superior, unless it's like a completely really warm winter and there's just a lot of browse and.
Yeah. I feel, well, a lot of times too, when they go out and feed at night or whatever, they'll go eat for a little while, then they'll bed down in those little like grassy strips not too far away and chew on their cud or whatever, and then get back up and go eat some more. And that's normally why they're all laying around the fields.
Yeah, they'll lay like right on the edge of the field or something.
Yeah.
Have you noticed anything with like water sources? I know sometimes in the winter up here it gets where they're drinking they have pretty few options. A lot of the little water holes freeze up, and there's a few creek bottoms that I know around my place that get hammered. Mm-hmm. Have you had luck around water? Do you target water? Anything like that?
I can't say I have. Mm-hmm. That's something that I haven't really like particularly looked at it. I guess there hasn't been anything that's really like stood out to me, like that makes it seem like that's a great spot.
Yep.
Around water sources down here. But that's interesting. I'll have to keep an eye out on that more. But like I said, like I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, how far was this shed from like the closest water source? Or, you know, because I just don't find a lot like right up next to the pond.
Yep.
I mean, I found a couple, but I mean,
Yeah.
the
And I
probability of it.
suppose it matters too when they're shedding, and down where you're at, you got some more mild winters where maybe they do have a few more options as far as water.
Yeah.
They're probably not taking in a ton in the wintertime. I get it, but from what I've seen and learned up here, they still definitely do need it, and that's what kind of those creek bottoms seem to show a lot of sign when there's still snow.
Yeah, big
up
time.
here.
Yeah.
I can really tell.
It's got to be like
That's
particularly
very interesting.
like running water though. Like
Yeah, so
all
it's not
the other
freezing
stuff
up.
is already frozen or whatever, obviously. But yeah, if you find like a little creek or whatever that's still got a little trickle in the water, it's insane how many deer tracks around that.
I've noticed
Okay.
that a lot.
Yeah,
You guys are making me want to walk down by our little creek by the road now.
Well, that's where. Think about it though.
Cole found,
Billy,
Billy
the
down
biggest
there,
one you
yeah.
guys have ever found was right down there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
something we haven't talked about, but he
Yeah.
probably there's no food over there. There's a highway and then a pasture, so
Yeah.
he's probably down in there
Yeah.
for that reason. Now thinking about that.
Emmett, when you're walking through the woods, are you like, yeah, I'm just looking for like a 4-point side or whatever, or are you just looking like for like a tine, just like a little speck of an antler or something like that?
I think I'm looking for a time. I think that's a better way to describe it.
Yeah,
I look for that
I think at
color.
the beginning of the year when I haven't found many, like I'm like picturing an antler in my head, but I think like by the time that I get to, I get a few under my belt, I think that's the point where it starts just changing to a time.
yeah,
I think it's looking for a time is a good way to describe it.
yeah.
Do you ever do the old trick of bringing a shed with you, or if you find one, throw it out and hide it on yourself a few times just to train your eyes to start locking in?
Heck yeah, man! I
Every
love
time.
doing that.
Yeah,
I love doing that.
it's amazing
And
how
I've been
tough
doing my
it is
giveaway
sometimes.
shed.
Oh yeah, the
It is.
giveaways. Yep.
So the giveaway sheds, like it works out great because I'll actually take an antler out with me. Like I used to just take an antler out with me, sometimes throw it out.
Yep.
But now with the giveaway shed, like I got to film that, so I'm like, I'll take that with me, and I'll be throwing those out. And,
You do a pretty good
like-
job of hiding those too. Like I said, I watch all your videos. I don't think I was ever even close to finding one.
You got to look in the comments.
Because you're blind, Jake.
Dude, it's crazy. The first time I did it, I'm like, oh, this is good. Like I kind of hit it in. It'll take somebody like a couple seconds. I think it was like at more, it was like the 10-minute mark. This is the first time I did it. It was like at like the 10-minute mark or something in the video. And like 8 minutes after I posted the video, somebody had already commented the right time, and I'm like, what? Like I did not expect it.
Damn.
I thought it would be like
Was that
12
quick?
hours later. Like
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Well, that's a smart thing too to get people to watch your videos all the way through. They got to pay attention, win something free.
oh, but dude, it's kind of it's in a way, it's worth the pain in the ass. But it's so funny how many people will reach out and be like, "Hey, I think you walked by a shed in your video." It's like, so it's like,
That is hilarious.
I hate
Yeah,
that.
it's
You go to a good spot and you walk away and you're like, I bet I just walked through like 3 or 4 of them.
We're
You have
talking
those
about
days.
like strategies and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's probably no secret, but I haven't found that many sheds either. But I always like walking like overcast, cloudy days. I
Big
feel like
time.
they stick it a lot better. And then I remember last year I found, or I don't know, I think it might have been 2 years ago. I found like 2 or 3 in one day. It was overcast and it was actually raining a little bit.
Love that.
And like they freaking stick out so much better when it's like that, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
yes, you're exactly right. And that's a great point.
Yeah.
And it's raining, and especially like open timber on a cloudy. Open timber can be so difficult sometimes to look on like a really sunny day, and then especially if you don't have like the sun at your back and you've got all the shadows. But if you have like a rainy day, oh dude, that's a great point.
Yeah, they pop out. Like Mitch, you've had
Yeah.
that video. What was that? Megatron? When
Yeah,
You found? You
yeah.
saw him from a long ways away
Yeah.
when it was like that.
Both sides were laying literally on top of each other, and you can see them. I could see them from like 50 yards away, just sitting on top of a little knob. And yeah, it was raining that day, overcast, just a perfect conditions.
Yeah.
Hey, Emmitt, most of your match sets that you've found, I know you found a handful. What's your average distance on? I know it's probably hard to point exactly. I found a few that are stacking right on top of each other, and then we had an experience the other day. Or not the other day. It was like 2-3 years ago, but it was like pushing a mile. We found the other side. You got any stories on that?
That's a good question. I actually have been. I haven't put our data from the last 2 years in my spreadsheet, but I started to build a spreadsheet and try to see where all the match sets were, and then find like the birds at the crow flies distance between the two.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the data on that right now at the top of my head. It's just so hard because I have to guess. If I had to guess, I'd say the average I find a match set, the average distance would be 100 yards.
Pretty close,
Really?
Because you have like most of them that if I do find the match set, there's a good percentage of them that aren't like that far, you know.
Oh yeah.
That's if I find it, and then there's sometimes like I've got permission on. There's a farm last year where I had permission on 2 farms that border each other, and they were just like the way it was drawn out. I found these sheds like over half a mile apart as the crow flies. But I mean, the terrain that deer would have to run to get that far would have been, 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah. That's nuts.
So I don't know.
Have you found many?
Good question.
Have you found many match sets that are like right side by side?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely found them side by side. Another good thing that'd be another good thing to point out if I had that data. I mean, be able to say like, out of all the match sets, if I found 100 match sets in my life, 10 of them were right next to each other.
Yeah.
I wish I had that data. I don't. Right now.
I feel like most of mine, and I haven't found that many. I'm probably under 20, but majority of mine have been right next to each other. And there's obviously other factors that lay into that. It's if you find the one, you have to find the other sometimes if it's sitting there.
Yeah.
Or it could be 50 yards away and you can't see it.
You feel like I think we mentioned this last time, but do you feel like when they're laying right next to each other, they kind of just got up out of their bed and they both kind of just dropped like instantly after they got up?
Shake their head or something.
Shook their head a little bit.
Yeah. You'd have to speculate, right? That it'd be something like that. Like they were laying down and like as they were sleeping or taking their little snooze, they both started to get to a point where they just lodged, and just when they got up, that was enough to jolt them off.
Did you see that video Lee Lakowski just posted the other day?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we were talking about that last time.
Giant buck walked in and shed his. If it were me, even if he shed, I don't think I could ever shoot him. I would just be more than happy to go pick up some sheds and hunt him again the next year.
Yeah.
Like there's no, and he mentioned like, hey, I might kill him if he comes in, and the other side's laying right there, which I get, but man, he
shed
those
both
horns.
sides or just one?
It was one, and he was about to shed the other, and then the video cut out. But he was gonna shed it. He was shaking his head and trying to.
Hopping around like a freaking Bronco.
Yeah, I would have been more than happy pick up the sheds and hey, I'll get to look forward to next year.
Move on. It was a big buck like that. It's like
it was a giant.
The weight on one side is probably weird.
Mm-hmm.
Surprised he didn't fall over.
If you're in that situation, Emmitt, what are you doing? I'm gonna guess you're going shed hunting first and say, hey, let's hunt this guy.
I'm shed hunting. Heck yeah.
I'm scooping that.
Heck yeah, I'm shed hunting. And I'm surprised by Lee's response on that. Like that he said he was going to shoot it, because I was like, I feel like I'm surprised. I would have thought his mindset would have been just like you and I are talking right now. That we would go pick up that shed. Even if that deer was 6 or let's say 7, it's like, okay, I could have shot. Let's say I could have shot him. I can go pick up his antlers. Now I can shoot him next year. Maybe he goes down 5 inches, but it's more to the story.
Yeah, exactly. You still get the a little treat in finding his sheds, and then you get to hunt him again on top of that. That's a win-win.
Big time.
Exactly.
But the only reason I could see it being, I would do it is if the deer was, you could tell he was sick or wounded or anything like that, then I could justify it pretty easily. I think most could, but outside of that, I'm shed hunting every day of the week there. But
the way that deer reacted, that was pretty cool.
It was really cool.
Like sitting there, like
sweet.
trying to like dislodge it. Like you don't ever, because nobody ever gets that on video, right?
No, exactly. That was awesome.
Do you find a lot of sheds when you're in Iowa? Are they eaten by squirrels quite a bit?
Yeah, definitely. It depends on where they fall, right?
Yeah.
Like there's some that it could be in a native grass patch in the middle of a CRP field, that it's laid there for years and it's just getting cracked and withered away, but it doesn't have a single tree mark. But then other ones that you could drop in the open timber and it's not even like, it's still got a full wax ring and you're already seeing tree marks on it. It's like,
Yeah.
holy cow. So, I mean, open timber one, yes, I'm seeing a lot of tree marks. And then like areas where there's this one farm that I can shed hunt that has a lot of hedge trees,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like there's been sheds in there that I have found that they'll get ripped. Like you don't find, if they get dropped in a certain area on that farm, you better find them within a week or two when they're dropped, or else you're not going to have much left in them. I mean, you'll know what the antler is enough, but it'll make you sick.
Yeah, nothing's worse. It's hard enough to find a good one as it is, and then when you do, and it's all ripped up, you're like, come on,
eaten up.
Damn, man.
Even in when we went on our public land trip, this was actually I was living in Iowa. I think this was 2018. We had went down just south of Des Moines there a ways, and we ended up finding 15 sheds that day, all in public. Granted, it was 5 guys walking, so but it was a good day. And what I couldn't believe is how many we found. A handful of old sheds too, which made it
really,
which I'm like, old sheds on public ground. That's you don't hear that. It made it maybe want to go back next year, thinking maybe it wasn't hit too hard, or maybe they were in there later and shed after all the traffic. I'm not sure, but I just thought it was kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
But we went there 2-3 years after we had that day, and then we struggled. So it's just it's tough to know.
We were
It
struggling.
makes you wonder if it's one of those things where there's so many people that think like, oh, it's public, it's going to be overran. And then it gets to the point that people are like nobody actually hits it because it's, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've had some tough trips, and we've had some good luck too. And I know
Central Iowa was a good one. Yeah.
It was a good one. And then, I don't know. It's tough going the public route, but when that's your option, you do it. And just knowing that there is still, an opportunity to find a giant down there, it keeps you walking. It makes that hill not look as steep, and so that's why I think we keep going down there. And this year, if I do decide to go public, it's kind of an opportunity to scout a little bit too.
Oh, big time.
Knock out 2 birds with 1 stone there.
I remember a couple of years ago when we were walking on public, I was walking out and I saw a guy walking probably 50 yards away from me, and I stopped and talked to him. He was from freaking Alabama.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Was he the guy who brought that big, he had a bike and came in there?
No, those guys were from, those 2 guys, wasn't it? They were from Wisconsin. They were from Green Bay or something.
They're from Green Bay down there too.
Oh, yeah.
So it's
you don't know what you're gonna run into.
No. And some of those little spots, they're in the boonies. Like I mentioned a few spots before, but it's crazy what sheds bring in nowadays as far as the exposure of it, especially YouTube. Obviously, your channel, as much as it's great sharing your stories, I'm sure it gets more people out there, which is a good thing. But it does create more people.
I can't imagine having the opportunity like 20 years ago, like especially where like I do a lot of my hunting now, like, and maybe this is just how it's always. Like you hear the stories of, 20 years ago I could have we deer hunted this whole block.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody probably 20 years ago people probably did, but let's just say 30, right? Like I can't imagine I'm like, okay, you can take this whole country block and the deer mecca and go pick up antlers that nobody else has ever cared to even pick up unless they were going to run it over with a tractor tire.
Yep. No, we hear the same.
Like,
we hear the same stuff in Wisconsin too. It's nuts. Luke, he's a older guy. He goes with us. I don't know if he's mid-40s, but he's like, yeah, I used to be able to hunt all these, a bunch of places for nothing, and now it's you go and knock on a door and ask them to shed hunt, and they look at you funny. You're like, you really asking?
Yep. Emmitt, so describe like the perfect day of shed hunting, like perfect date, perfect weather, who you got with you, just everything. What makes shed hunting great for you?
Yeah, I mean, perfect day. I think you guys hit a great point earlier with like cloud cover. Rain can definitely be good. I mean, but if I'm saying like my absolutely perfect day, rain's great. Like if I get rain, I'm going to open timber. But like I'd say cloudy, so, and I'm saying I'm hitting a perfect day. I'm hitting a farm that hasn't been touched, and it's the second week of March. It's a cloudy day, and it's 50 degrees. Actually, I kind of like 40 to 50. You know what I mean? Like not too cold, not too hot. Where you're not like sweating.
Yep, sweatshirt.
Yeah, and no snow on the ground, and it's like you basically have no worries, and knowing that nobody else has hit it.
Yeah, that's such a reassuring feeling too. Once you go there, you're so amped up to get there and just put the miles on that day.
Exactly.
Do you
even
go ahead?
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's funny because like I said, my dad has a farm.
Yep.
And we'll hit that farm. Like I'll hit field edges, and I'll be doing sometimes a lot of shed hunting on that farm early. Like last year, we went in early to find, because as soon as we thought the deer that we wanted to find dropped to the antlers, I mean, we went in to go find them, because it's even like a farm that my family can control the amount of pressure that's on it and who's supposed to be on it. Like we'll have trespassers every other year.
Wow.
I will take care of it, but it's like at the time you can't do it. Like it's just funny. Like even the farms that you think that you can leave till late March, sometimes you can't.
Yeah. I was actually just going to lead into that question about shed poaching nowadays. As it's getting more popular, that's getting to be a bigger issue. I know a buddy of mine who has a few leases down there. He deals with it every year. He told me the one year, he's like, you go ahead. We're going down there in a couple of weeks, but you might as well go ahead, because there's, every year somebody's in there that's not supposed to be. You deal with that in any, majority of your spots, or you see it pretty good?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the spots I have, other people already have permission. But even on those spots, like that's not a guarantee, right? Like there's some spots where I've actually like made good friends with other people that like to do it, and we've gone out together. Like we'll just wait and be like, okay, let's just, instead of trying to race each other, let's just go out together. But even on those types of farms, yeah, there's constantly poachers. Especially it gets really bad. What I've noticed, not from actually like personal, but just from like hearing about other people's stories, it seems like it gets really bad as soon as like people know that there's a big deer in the area. Like that's when you're gonna have serious problems.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Yeah, those big ones.
Like if there's a known 180 that's been seen from like the road and that people think have made it through, or word got like out that he's made it through, or people just speculate that he's made it through, I think that's when you're gonna have some serious problems. But yeah, every year it seems like, even where I run trail cameras, there's people that'll be out there. Yeah, it's a problem. And I guess just trying to come up, I think that people will come up with creative ways to stop it. One thing I've always like thought of in my head, like cutting an antler, as much as it makes me sick to think that, like cutting an antler open and then putting, what would be the right word for it?
Like chipping,
like a filler around an air tag. And then like repainting it and then leaving it out. Then somebody comes and picks it up, like falling back, but even like a little, but yeah, I mean, things that I've done, I'll put out like decoy sheds and I'll put cameras high in the tree. Not necessarily to, sometimes you'll be able to tell who it is, but
that's interesting.
other
Yeah,
times
so I've thought about doing that before, and I've heard of people doing that with, as far as like
it's just a pain
chipping a shed and stuff, and it's crazy it comes to that, but it is. Everybody, I mean, I wouldn't want it happening on my farm if I had at all. No, so
yeah,
you got to do what you got to do. No question.
yeah, exactly.
When do you think?
Especially if it's a farm that you like put in time and effort, you're the one that's like putting in all the work and, and
exactly.
money in throughout the year. You're like, that's one of the things that you're looking to reap benefit off of. Like, that's just
food plots aren't cheap.
Yeah,
and then when you do get a good one that makes it to have that happen, it's just kicking the nuts, of course.
Yeah, want to be able to reap the rewards of planting all that food and finding the sheds and keeping them healthy throughout the whole year.
Yeah, the antler's worth more than just the poundage that it sells at.
Yeah,
Whatever that theft of there's intrinsic value there. It's hard to capture.
Yep. There's no two the same. That's what makes it fun.
Yeah. You still got like tack cams or any cell cams still going right now?
I do. So we actually had like a pretty rough winter. So bad that like now it's a lot more mild now. Like last week, it's like all the snow's melting, but we had it pretty bad there when we got a lot of snow and it was like pretty nasty times. So I had some cameras up on a feeder, and I was just like seeing what deer were around. And it's funny how like those like when it gets really bitter like that, like every deer in the area was hitting that feeder because it was the most successful food source.
Yep.
I know you guys said that you guys can't do that up in Wisconsin, but like it was funny because as soon as all that snow melts, like none of the deer really hit that. They'll hit it. But like seriously, the deer I wanted to find the sheds off of, like he was there every night, every morning, every night, every morning, every night. And like it was to the point where like if he dropped them, I could damn near tell exactly when he did. Now he didn't drop them before it warmed up, so now I'm like I'm kind of at a loss. I haven't checked some of my regular cameras. But yeah, to answer your question, I know I gave a long-winded answer there, but yeah,
man.
Are you what are you seeing as far as shed bucks that on your cameras? I mean, are you seeing half the herd, less than that, more than that? What would you we have our weekend planned. It's tough to go any weekend here with other priorities we have. But if you're going on a trip down there, where do you when are you going?
So if you're asking if I would go on a trip to Iowa, when would I time it?
You're from Wisconsin, and this year, what's perfect weekend to go? On public, which changes it.
Gosh, but public is that's such a hard question with public because it's like I could give you a better answer for like I would go like anywhere between February 20th and February 28th, somewhere between there.
Perfect.
Great answer.
Great answer.
Good deal.
We normally go, I think, even a week earlier a lot of times, but this year's I think we're going on the 22nd.
Yeah, 23rd.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. 23rd. I mean, it's risk versus reward, right? You guys are going to take a risk by not going in like March, but right, like it's public. I mean, it's not really much of a risk. You know that you would be in a really bad situation if you went the second week into March. I mean, maybe not. But.
Yep. It's so hard down there. I feel like there's certain spots that probably there might be 20 people that go walk it, and there's other spots that 2, or probably a few spots that none. I mean, there's so much good public in Iowa. It's endless acres to walk, and it's just a matter of walking the right piece the right day.
Exactly.
So it's tough. Even we go with a group of 5-6 of us, and which makes it fun. You end up picking up more horns, and it's but where to go is always it's a coin flip. I mean, there's so many areas, which makes it great.
This looks good on the map.
Especially when we only go for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, we're going for about 2 days. So this year we're actually going to leave on a Friday night and consider coming home on a Sunday night, and it's about a 5-ish hour drive. So
nice.
It'll be a weekend, but it'll be fun. A lot of hunting stories get told in the truck ride down, and and back.
Just
So.
a fun.
That sounds like a really good time.
Yeah,
like,
just a fun
that's what it's
weekend
about.
anyway. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Fun weekend, sheds or not. Sheds always help. But what was our best weekend we probably found? Is that North Central when we went in Central Iowa more?
15 to 20.
Quantity wise,
There's 4 of us. Oh, not great, but it was fun, and we found almost every shed was actually
A couple decent
of the
ones.
15. I don't think we found a yearling side. Which is nuts. They were all 2.5s to most of them were 2-3-year-olds. There was no slammers or anything, but still a great weekend. What's the biggest match set you ever found? I remember a video a few years back. You finding that one with the big flyers off. I think you said it was a property.
That was nice.
Yeah, you didn't. You couldn't hunt there, but you could shed hunt.
Yeah, that one was awesome.
That was a hell of a deer.
They sold that farm. The owner sold that farm that summer too. Like, it was like, damn, that farm was just perfect. It was a perfect scenario. I'm actually about to drop a video of my biggest match set. Like my because I'm going out to the Harrisburg. Like I was like, I need to find filler content because people are like wanting shed videos.
Oh yeah.
And I'm gonna be gone for 2 weeks. So like what I'm doing is I'm gonna drop video on my biggest single side and my biggest set. My biggest set I think would be biggest set that I found one side, my dad found the other. That we're both kind of in the same area. Like it would have been considered. I mean, I would kind of consider it like I would have found it likely.
Yep.
I think that one, that would be my biggest, which would have been like 88 on one side, 75 on the other. So it would have been about like a 175 inch deer.
Mm-hmm.
That Flyers that you're talking about is right there with it though, because that one was like 70. One side was like 79, the other side was like 76. I mean, it was great.
That was awesome.
That's the second biggest for sure.
That deer looked to be, I mean, hard to judge based off sheds, but that was an older deer, I'm guessing. I mean, 6-7 years old.
So, like on that one, that was a really weird circumstance. The one that my biggest. So it was found in a area where it's kind of public. I don't know how to describe it. It's public, like a privileged public, where like people can go in and shed hunt 2 days a year, and like people hunt it like public hunting ground all year, but you have to apply for it. I'm sorry, not all year, but during deer season, they can hunt it like all deer season, but you have to like go through this application process, and it's like, so anyways, that's where I found it, but you can't run trail cameras in there.
You can't. That's
yes. I mean, like as far as like the deer and that, the circumstances with that biggest match set is like such a weird story to tell because it's like you're asking like a great question. How old is the deer?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we ended up finding the set off that deer the next year, and then the deer ended up dying like 2 miles from where we found the shed the year after that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, you could tell just by the shed, the set that we had found first year, second year, like it was going downhill. And then when it got killed, it was even smaller. So it was like, you could tell it was an older deer. But at the time, we really didn't know.
Yeah.
Like when we first found the set, we're like, we have to think this is an old deer because it's got a nice score. Like, I mean, but you really didn't know. Like, it could have been 10. It could have been 4, and you really wouldn't know.
Yeah, it's hard to tell with a pair of sheds. You can get a good guess. I'm sure you don't find enough of them, but at the end of the day, it's hard to know.
Yeah.
Hard to know.
What's weird is I've never like had I'm looking for somebody to give me an example out there. I'm not saying that this is the case. It's just I've never seen it on any like the trail cameras I've ran.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 2-year-old with like 5 or 6 inch faces, like a freaking heavy 2-year-old. I've not ever seen that. You know, all the heavy deer I've seen, it's like they're always old.
Yeah, I'm with you there. The pedicle size is a pretty easy tell to at least get yourself in the ballpark.
Yeah, but some of them don't even have mass though either. Some of them just have like that curly buck from the Deer Society.
Yeah,
182-inch typical buck, but
always
maybe
just
had
that
4-inch
spindly horns.
4-inch circumference. Yeah.
Hey Emmitt, I know your wife's with you here. Does your wife shed hunt with you at all?
She does. She enjoys it. She'll go out with me every once in a while. In the year, yeah, she likes to go out.
Nice.
I'm trying
to get my wife into it more. She goes maybe once a year, but I beg her, and she likes to work out, and she can go for walks for 2 miles on the pavement. But I'm like, hey, just consider it a hiking trip, and maybe you'll get lucky and find a shed. But I haven't. I don't know. I think she'd much rather just take the pavement, but I'm trying to convince her to walk more. I think it would help get me some more free passes in the woods. She hasn't, and I'm in between. I don't want to plant one for her either, because I want it to be
she got to earn that
real, and that would be, I don't know. I think she'd probably get mad if I did that for her, finding out that, hey, you set me up on it. But she just doesn't get out enough, to be honest.
Because I bet when she finds her first one, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, all of a sudden, like, you don't really have to push her to do it. Like, she'd probably be like, I feel like all of us have kind of that, like, kid Easter egg hunt type mentality, whether we're, deer hunting sometimes is hard to pull other people in on. Shed hunting is like, I don't know, I think it's like mushroom hunting for me. Like, I never was big in mushroom hunting when my buddies like mushroom hunt. And I just go out with them sometimes because I just like the feeling of finding something they're looking for.
Yep.
I wonder if she'll just like take more interest in it when she finds out this one.
I don't know, and I might have to just have to set her up. It's getting to be we've been together long enough now, and we only get out once a year. So when you're not finding them, that one day, here you are,
makes you
on to the next year. So pretty soon the years go by, and you're like, wow, we better get to this. But yeah, I'll probably end up having to plant one. It's funny because when I asked her when we actually got engaged that day, same thing. I wanted to I've seen on TikTok or whatever, somebody puts a ring on an antler. I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to actually do this. I want to find one and then do it, because then the shed is actually something kind of special, not just a setup.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that day we looked our ass off, and it was one of those farms where it wasn't a lock to find them, but we didn't have a lot of food, but there was plenty of good bucks, there throughout the winter. So I'm like, just maybe we went with, there's probably a little bit too much snow, but didn't find one. So that was my luck that day. and neither did she, but that's probably the last time we went shed hunting together. It was probably 2 years ago.
Oh man.
Yeah. Well, I can't say much. We just had a daughter last March, so that was right in the tough time.
Peak shed hunting season.
Yep.
He missed our shed hunting trip.
I even had to miss the Iowa trip just in case she went into labor. I didn't want to be 5 hours from home.
He went fishing instead.
I went fishing about 2 hours from home, so that I was able to swing it.
I got one more question for you, Emmitt. What do you? So
yeah, go ahead.
When you go out, you film with a GoPro, don't you?
Yeah.
Do you you keep it on like a little tripod type thing, or do you keep it on your chest or something, or what do you use when you're filming?
I used to keep it on my chest. And then I just started like keep it on a tripod now. I've also sometimes just use my phone. My phone takes great videos. That can at least look somewhat presentable. You know what I mean? So it's just, I feel like the GoPro, when you're trying to do it, like if you try to do it with a camcorder, holy cow. You'd have to have a cameraman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I take my DSLR when we go to Iowa, and random times sometimes too, and I put it over my shoulder and carry it around, and my mic got absolutely destroyed by thorns last year. It's a hassle to bring around because it's that extra weight or whatever. Then you got to bring it back out, take your cap off, and start filming. The GoPro and phone route's way better. I mean, obviously it's not as good quality, but one of our best shed hunting videos on there is one that I did all with my phone anyway. So it's not really like you're trying to zoom in on anything. You're going to walk right up on the shed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think a lot of people, like, if you go for like the not majestic, but the perfect, picture perfect, like high quality, really good looking cinematic shed hunting, I think people will be like, oh, this is cool. We haven't seen this before.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I think people are just like, want to see what you find. And the GoPro can show that pretty easily.
Yeah. Yeah. They're watching in order to either they can't make it out yet, or they're trying to get better at it, or just trying to see like a giant be found or something like that. And it doesn't really have to be anything too top tier like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to go to like a DSLR or mirrorless and try that.
Yep.
Even then, I still feel like it's going to be more of a hassle. And
Yeah.
what you think it's a lot of a hassle?
It is, yeah. I mean, you could probably get a specific little thing to throw on, like a little back, put it on your back, or like a little sling or something like that, and tie it up tight, and you could probably just take it right off. I've seen people like legit bring their hunting backpacks, and they have this little clip that they clip it on in the front, so then you can just unclip it and take it off. I don't know what backpack it was specifically, but
Yeah. So Cam Durr, he works for Exodus, and him and Jake Hofer came out one year, and Cam was using that same setup where he had a mirrorless on a what were those clips called?
gimbal?
Say again?
A gimbal?
No, not a gimbal, but he had that clip what you're talking about, where basically it's a clip that clips on your backpack strap.
Oh yeah.
Like he had his camera basically on his chest, and then when something would get found, he could pull it off and whatnot.
Yeah.
Which is like that is slick. Like, sometimes I get worried about going up and down draws, and all of a sudden,
Yeah. Where to go?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Real quick. Have you all those miles? We're on the topic. Have you ever dropped your phone, anything of value, on a shed hunting trip, and then had to circle back and try to look for that?
I don't have any wood to knock on, but no.
Oh, okay.
I'll knock for you.
I had a phone issue.
Thank you.
It was not fun, but you probably end up finding
awful.
some more sheds that way. Yeah, I didn't. I was of course. But one other question for you here too. Obviously, you got some great country right in your neck of the woods. Have you considered? Traveling even throughout the state or other states looking for sheds?
Yeah, that's something I would love to do. Like, I would love to do that.
Elk hunting. Elk shed.
Yeah,
I've heard that's
I've
awesome
dreamed
too.
about doing elk and moose, and there's just so much out there. It's something I really want to do, but I just don't have vacation time to do it. Between deer hunting, I'll allocate like a week for like the early muzzleloader season here in Iowa, a week for the rut. I'm lucky I'll tag out early, and even then there's still family things and just vacation time. I mean, I don't have.
I get it.
I want to, but like the stars would really have to align, and I need to. Yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I would love to go out west.
Yeah, most of us are in the same boat here. It's tough when you got a job and then you throw a kid into the mix too, which is great, but it makes things tougher. If you want to take off that week or two during the rut, you can't. You want to go on a fishing trip in the summertime, you got to pick your days, and it's not always easy. But yeah, it would be cool. I think finding a great big elk match set.
I'm hoping one of these days somebody with like as much ambition like that same amount of ambition that I have for like whitetail shed antlers. Mm-hmm. Somebody out west that has the same ambition for elk hunting will maybe reach out, or I'll find them and be like, hey, let's do a flop. Like, I only have so many days to go out there. You only have so many days to come out here. And like, I'll put you on some really good stuff. You put me on some really good stuff. And that way, like, I mean, it's the whole learning process can be fun too. But just if you don't have that much time, it takes 10 hours to get out there and then 10 hours to get back or whatnot. You just don't have unlimited time, So if you could go out there and be in the experience what it's all about in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Trade something like that. Yeah. Anybody listening right now got any good access to some elk sheds?
Hit us up.
Yeah. I know a guy who's got some access to some good whitetail.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you a ton for coming on. Hopefully, not only us, but you as well can get over that threshold of maybe over 100 sheds, maybe even 150, maybe get lucky.
Oh, boy, that'd be awesome.
Probably be pushing it, but we're rooting for you. We'll be watching all the shed hunting videos. We enjoy watching them. We'll be putting out some of our own, too.
Heck yeah, I'll be keeping an eye out.
Sounds good. Heck yeah. Well, thanks again for coming on.
You bet. Have fun at that outdoor show.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, it was great. It was great talking to you guys. It was a great conversation here. We'll stay in touch, but good luck this year. And, yeah, we'll have to stay in touch and come back at the end of the year and see where we end up.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
sounds good.
Take care, Emmitt.
Yep, see you, buddy.
Yeah, we'll see you guys.
Awesome.
He's a cool dude.
Yeah. I wish I could find that many sheds, too.
That's crazy.
How much he walks and how much he finds.
Yeah.
That 400 miles surprised me. Obviously, I knew it was a lot, but that
I thought I was gonna guess 300.
and I don't think he's bullshitting either.
Yeah,
A minute.
like just half of the mileage amount of sheds.
And like he made a good point too. What's 10 miles in late March dry ground is and 10 miles in hills and snow completely different. But it's just crazy thinking of that number, 400 miles.
We were touching on like all the snow and stuff too, though. When I was walking in the woods last weekend, like it looks like the middle of November, like all the leaves and stuff, like they're still brown and everything. Yeah. And normally, like you get all that snow matted down on it, and then the leaves just lay. And they lose their color too, though.
Yeah, they turn like yellowish.
Yeah, then they'll get the antlers will pop out even more after that too. So it might be interesting to see if we can't find any or if there's some leaves covering some up this year too.
Me and Cole went for a quick walk with Mike last weekend, and it kind of sucked because of how like slimy it was out. You're slipping and sliding down the hills and everything.
Yeah. Nothing's flat.
Yeah, that's the worst. Slipping and sliding, falling on your ass,
getting all muddy.
Yeah, then you gotta go back to your truck and be all pissed off.
That's worse. That's why it makes me worried if you ever do pick up a good one like this and you're walking side hills. Like, I'm gonna keep this thing on the uphill side. So if I fall,
it reminds me of the story from Tom told us about John up his nose.
I was just thinking about that.
We'll share it real quick here, but the one of the most impressive sheds I've ever seen around here. I had actually found the match set the year prior, the buck, and he was probably mid 50s then. And this shed that John picked up was probably a deer with both sides in the spread. He was a booner. I bet you he was low 70s at least. And he was he doesn't shed hunt a lot, John. And as he's walking this trail and it's icy snow, and I guarantee they're only out there for 45 minutes. They're going back to the cabin. I know, And he falls down, and apparently this shed hits him in the face and about goes up his nose. So it's a story that's hard to believe, but
almost have to have Tom tell it.
But he'd tell it way better. He'll 10 times better.
It'd be like a 10-minute long story too.
And it'd be a good one. It'd be well worth it. But knowing that John doesn't shed hunt a lot, and I don't know, it's just wild.
I just remember Tom's like, damn thing went up his nose.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a
once you always see the crazy thing is, I didn't see it. I stepped on it before I found it, but try falling on your ass and having that thing. And it's just such an impressive horn.
What a way to find a shed, especially a big one like that.
Well, we were talking about like tips and stuff before that. Another huge tip is just to walk slower. Like if you think you're walking slow, you go a little slower yet even.
I try to stop a lot.
Yeah, take a stop. Just stop. I don't know how many times I've like stopped and like looked at something or like took a piss or something like that, and I look over and look around and I'm like, oh shit, there's one right there.
I've had a couple times now when I've been doing that where you stop and like I found one behind me, like I walked by it already.
Yeah.
You probably find a lot when you stop and take a shit in the woods.
That's happened. Well, I haven't found one.
You're good for about 2 of those a day, I feel like.
Definitely not.
Well, on that note,
we better cut this.
yeah, it's getting too long now. Get into the After Hours podcast pretty soon. Well, thanks again for tuning in, guys. We'll see you maybe next week for episode 12.